Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today. Now, ancient Turkey has been the topic of a lot of videos I've seen out there lately, but I wanted to do a video on a site that I have not covered, and I haven't seen a video from this site from any channel that I'm familiar with. But this place is called Asikli Höyük, and that is going to be my attempt to pronounce it. But this place just makes me wonder about a lot of things. Some really fascinating things were found here. This was occupied between 11,000 and 10,000 years ago. And really the story we are being told about these early people seems to be totally wrong. They talk about cavemen and primitive people. Well, they lived in homes here 10,000 years ago. They had community centers. They raised livestock. They made incredible jewelry. But first, I just want to mention a couple videos. Here's one I did from ancient Turkey just a couple days ago. The Harbetsuvan hill and the pillars they found here, just like Gobekli Tepe. You're going to be hearing a lot about this place in the upcoming years. I guarantee you that. But I was really glad to do this video, really get this information out there. And here is a video. I will leave the link below about Asikli Höyük and the research that has gone on here. And it just gives you a good look. I thought this was a fascinating place. This is a tell or a tepe, or just a mound that has been built up over years of habitation. And the history here goes back thousands and thousands of years. Asikli Höyük is an 11,000-year-old Neolithic settlement located on the banks of the Menendez River in the volcanic landscapes of Cappadocia. The minstrel people lived in mud brick houses for at least 20 generations more than 1,000 years ago. 11,000 years ago. In the early 9000 BC, when the houses were made of oval adobe, the Asikli mound was home to people who engaged in agriculture, raised small animals such as sheep, goats, made bricks and masonry from mud bricks, and built straw wickers, and could design amazing trappings. Now here is an overhead look at this mound, but the earliest people here were here from 11,000 to 10,000 years ago. And then, like in the 7,000 BCs, people came in here and lived again in different style homes. Some of these have been reconstructed at the site, and then there is a place for tourists to see the original structures. But in one of the early structures, there was a burial found here. I just talked about a site in Poland last week where a similar find was made under a floor in the dwelling. But in one of the lower parts of these 10 to 11,000-year-old dwellings, there was a child's burial found here, wrapped in a straw weave mat. And here is a close-up of that straw mesh weaving that was wrapped around the child, over 10,000 years old, found beneath the plaster floor of the dwelling. Now, there are many artifacts recovered from here, but these really old 10, 11,000-year-old artifacts, there's one that really stands out. This ring, sometimes it's called a bracelet right here, made from obsidian and crafted with precision-like technology. Here are other bone implements and maybe a necklace here, other obsidian objects found at the site. Now, this object, this ring, or sometimes it's called a bracelet made of obsidian, this is truly fascinating. I've heard other people talk about this. And sometimes it's connected with Gobekli Tepe, but Gobekli Tepe is quite a ways away from here, maybe 150, 200 miles. But this site is only about 25 miles away from Derinkuyu, that mysterious underground city. And I know Brian Forster, I think, did a video on that place in the last few days. But let's talk about this ring or bracelet. It says, discovered in 1995 at the exceptional site of Asikli Höyük in Turkey and displayed ever since at the Aşıklı Archaeological Museum. The ring was studied in 2009. It says the process has revealed that the bracelet was made using highly specialized manufacturing techniques. The analysis carried out showed that the bracelet was almost perfectly regular. The symmetry of the central annular ridge is extremely precise to the nearest degree and nearest 100 micrometers. This suggests that the artisans of the time used models to control its shape when it was being made. The surfacing finish of the bracelet required a use of complex polishing techniques capable of obtaining a nanometer scale surface quality worthy of today's telescopic lenses. But this ring, 10 centimeters in diameter and 3.3 centimeters wide, has the same kind of precision and accuracy that jewelry today is made with. There are some other fascinating things about this place. Here is another website I will leave the link to below. 10,500 years ago, the oldest settlement of Cappadocia. But it says here that people first started living here in partially round structures buried in the ground. And then later on, they lived in quadrangular plan structures. But some people theorize that they lived in round structures buried in the ground because they once lived underground. They descended from people who lived in underground cities. That is what they theorize. This place is 25 miles away from Derinkuyu. About the same time Gobekli Tepe was buried. Are we beginning to see the picture here in its entirety? And it also says the oldest copper technology in central Anatolia was first seen here at Asikli Höyük. And just to make this a little weirder, here is a skull found here. They call this the oldest brain surgery in the world found here. These people were doing things here to the skull that I've showed in a few mound builder videos. They were doing the same things over in America. Here's what they theorize was like a community center in this village. They theorize there could have been as many as 1,500 people living around here. And on Google Earth, I think I found some other ancient dwellings right under the surface. But here, they theorize this was a community center. Red paint on the floor. The community center was painted red. Here is a view looking from the top of the mound. But this place seems fascinating. Brain surgery. They were burying their dead in very special ways. And you know what they also found next to some burials here? Flowers. Bouquets of flowers literally here 10, 11,000 years ago. So that goes back, way back in history, that tradition. And here is a look at the reconstruction, and they theorize people entered on ladders through holes in the ceiling. They were also raising crops and farm animals here. But this place has reconstructions today, what this place used to look like. Also places you can visit the original dwellings here. Here's a diagram of what they found under the surface. But copper was being manufactured here 10, 11,000 years ago. Artifacts for everyday living and jewelry made in precise modern ways here was found here. Different periods of construction, one going back 10, 11,000 years ago. They were burying their dead in very ceremonial ways. Brain surgery, well, that was evident here. Asikli Höyük, some pretty incredible finds were made here. And it really changes the way we look at people 10, 11, 12,000 years ago. They were highly civilized. People stopped living here about 10,000 years ago. The exact time Gobekli Tepe was buried. That causes you to think a little bit, but that's my video on Asikli Höyük. Hope you thought that was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.